So this is gold on the weekly time frame. We just want to analyze it to how we're going to trade it this week, the middle of the month. But I just want to show you how we traded it last week or the last trade we had, which was posted here. That is like 10 days ago. That's when we had a trade analysis. And this is how it played out 10 days ago. Like we made money as we had anticipated. So this is Tron Telegram, and this is the trade. And then the entry was around 46,076. So around 46.76, that's where we got our buy entry. And we had anticipated that when the market does certain things, that's when we shall go in for the buys. However, we were able to get out of this from these highs here and then break even on the rest. And then we're just trying to hold the rest and see how far it can go. But the thing is that the market has not actually moved that much the whole of last week. So we didn't get the moves that we wanted. But let's see how this plays out now. So we had anticipated that this was an all-time high, gold, which is around 5,600 almost. And then we had this as our low that gold had actually reached. So from this high to this low here, and then we come back and look at another high here. Let me just mark it like that. That is another high. And then we had a strong price difference candle. Now, if you notice this candle here broke below this, and then also below these ones here. So when we cover everything like that, that is our price difference, which covers for this low, because this single candle here broke this low, and then also these other lows here, and then gave us this lower low. And then from here, we're seeing a scenario where the market is pulling back into this price difference. And now this is where we're interested in trading. Now, last week we had a trade because we had this price difference. The difference between this low and then this other new high was here. And that is where we also, that is the reason for this buy position at 76, 46, 76. And I'm going to break it down why we had this buy. But if you watch this video here on Tron YouTube, you realize why we had the buy. I had also explained what will happen for us to buy. And now when that happened, we got the buy. And I'm going to break it down again. You don't need to worry. So we had the buy because of this. And right now, if you look at the market like this, you realize that we are in a place where the market is stuck between two price differences, which is this acting as a support and this one acting as a resistance. Remember what I've told you if you've been following Tron Telegram group, I've told you that price differences to the downside here equals to potential support, price difference to the upside equals to potential resistance. Now, once you understand this, then you can now begin to look for structural changes on the lower time frames. Now, we cannot analyze the market here because we already have the price difference here corresponding to a weekly low, which is equals to potential support. And then the weekly high here, which corresponds to a price difference, which is equal to potential resistance. So the market is in between this support and this resistance. So there's no much trading on the weekly time frame. You need to go to a lower time frame. So when I come to the daily, what do I see on the daily? If you look at the daily here, you can clearly tell that the market is actually ranging here in this, between this price difference here. So there is nothing for you to be able to use for trading. So we're in a range, and then you could clearly see here, this market went wicked into this, and then came, and then is ranging here. So there's nothing you can do. And if you cannot see on a particular time frame, you go to the lower time frame to be able to see more clearly. So let's come to the 4-hourly time frame. So on the 4-hourly time frame, you can begin to see structure. Yes, we're in a range, but you can begin to understand market in this range here. And what is that? That you understand within this range. Within this range, we also have another price difference, which is here. The difference between this low, which is from this support of a price difference from the weekly, and then this new high, which is also our resistance. The difference between these prices is actually from here. Okay. So when we mark it like that, that is where the difference is. So even if you extend it here, there is no problem, but this is it. So now this is an indication that we have another support area here, and then we have a resistance here. Remember, you could not see these on the bigger time frame like daily or weekly, but if the moment you zoom lower, you can see that. So now once we have this here, you realize that you don't need to bother so much with the trading until the market either comes to bounce off from here to break to the downside, then we could actually have that change of trend from bullish to bearish within this range here. Or else you begin to mark your highs within here. So the first high, of course, you need to mark is this one here, which is already marked, which is the price difference on the bigger time frame. And then you also have another high here, okay, once you mark it like that. And then even if you extend it here, you will see this corresponds to this other high here. So we're defining ranges in which the market is in. Remember, the whole of this is a range based of the daily. And then within the daily range, you now have another range, the 4-hourly range, which is also here, okay? You want price to be able to get out of here. Now let's study price more closely in this range here. What do you see in this range? There's a low, which is already our potential support. And then there is also a high here, which is our potential resistance. But if you look at the difference between this high and then this low is again here, okay? So when you mark it like that, you have another range. So now we have defined our range. Now the most important range is actually this range now, where we are in. We are in this range. So if you are going to find trading opportunities this coming week, you want price to really get out of this range to the upside. The moment we have a break to the upside into this, and then we have this, another break here. Remember, market has to first get out of this range and then shows you another break, then we can target these other highs here. And then once the market leaves this zone completely, that is when we can begin to look for more trading opportunities. We will only want to buy when the market completely leaves this zone. And then you are seeing that scenario where the market is breaking. That is when we can begin to target these other highs here. This, or you can just put it here. And then these are the all-time highs here. That is if market gets out of this range. But now that the market has not yet gotten out of this range, we are in this range. Let me explain why we bought at 40. This is the price. Let me get the price. Why we bought at 46.76. Why we had this buy, which we explained in the last video here. So let me show you that. So for me to get that clearly, I can just come to the 1-hourly time frame. So I'm looking for 46.76, 46.76. So it's around here. You can see the price on the left. So this is the reason why it's around here. This is around here. So let me explain why did we get this buy around here. So if I'm to just extend it here, this will be it. Okay. Now remember, we had already established that this is a this one here was our price difference on the weekly. So this was our potential support. So from this support, you could see now price comes to form a low here, and then fails to break above here for the first, second, and then the third time. And then when you extend it here, you realize this is our support. And now we didn't actually get a good trade here because this was a range until when we came here and then we formed a support, a stronger support. And then let me explain to you something. You can clearly tell here, this is a double bottom within support on the weekly. And then there's liquidity which was grabbed here. Okay, you see this wick, grab this liquidity, gives you a double bottom here. So the moment we had this, the next thing we're waiting for is for market to break any structural highs. So remember we had this high which was broken for the market to come and do this. So the moment we had the closure, the moment we had the candle closure above this previous high, remember we have a double bottom. Let me explain to you the conferences we had here. We had the liquidity which was being swept at a support level or a price difference level. We had the high which was broken, and then the market closed above this high. So that is where we had the buys, and the first targets was here. So that's definitely the reason for the buys. Better still, if you're still trading within last week, you realize that also there was another buying opportunity here. Of course, we didn't take this buy. And the thing is, we're still holding. We've taken partial profits here. We're holding this and seeing how far it can go. If it breaks this, if we break below this, then we would be out of our remaining buy positions here. Then maybe we can target up to this. And then now we can now trade again or look for sells when the market gets out of this range. So when the market gets out of this range here, with this break below, then we can have that cells to take us to here. But here we can have temporary trades, intraday trades. But for a swing perspective, you only want to trade below this and then above this for a swing perspective. But for now, we had that. So this is where we are going to look for trading opportunities on Monday and then throughout the week. Now, another thing I want to explain to you is we're going into the middle of the week and we've not been having a lot of volume. So there's a possibility we will have a lot of volumes on Monday or the whole of this week. This volume only came on Wednesday. This big volume here, it was on Wednesday, and then we never had another big volume. So possibly we would have a volume on Monday or maybe Tuesday, again on Wednesday. Just understanding simple market rhythm. So this is how we're going to trade gold. I will want to trade buying opportunity when we break this, and then I will get out of here. I will want to sell when we break below this. But for now, in this range here, I don't want to find myself trapped in there. So in simple terms, this is how we trade all the time. We break down the market during the weekend, and then as it plays out during the week, we follow our trading plan and then take trades without any massive. So if you want to get more information, they are always there in Tron, free analysis for you. And those are the same trade I take throughout the week. So you really want to get your hands on this.